See, how do we do this? Nope, I hear myself again. Hear myself again. Why am I hearing myself? Peace, peace, peace. Can y'all hear me out there? Just making sure you guys can hear me. Make it a number one if you can hear me. Give me a number one if you can hear me. Mic check, number one. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is the question. Okay, you guys can hear me. All right. So this presentation is going to be about the largest slave revolt in the US. And this happened in New Orleans in 1811. So you hear people making YouTubes want to talk about 1811, but somehow skip and miss the largest revolt that took place in the US. Why this revolt is significant? Because you get to see the African cultures and the intangible cultures that the people utilize in order to come together and make this happen. So with that being said, we will now go to the first page and let's see what you guys see. Hopefully you can see this. So this book that you will see on the screen is called, is my thing showing still? Or is this lagging over here? I'm trying to make sure that all of this is good, man. Do you guys still see that blue screen? Okay, you see another screen. I'm good. All right. So this book is called American Uprising, The Untold Story of the Slave Revolt by Daniel Rasuian. So here, this book details this in detail, but why I like this book is because it goes into depth of the lives and the people and how it was started. So it begins every year on January 6th. The King's Ball marked the kickoff of the carnival season that culminated in Mardi Gras. The ball featured the cutting of a cake in which a bean had been hidden amid dancing music, and revealers would celebrate the election of a king and a queen on the 12 cakes and drink prodigious amounts of alcohol. As the plan to celebrate Epiphany, 500 or 600 African men and women from New Orleans and its environs gathered in the common. Some of their faces bore the ritual facial scars and foul teeth of the Congo, others the tattoos of the Asante kingdom. So these carnivals are important because these are the times that we were allowed to come together, but you'll have people dancing, you'll have people doing parades, you'll have people dressing up in masquerades. But what happens here is these people are allowed to practice their Pacific culture. But being that we're able to come together on this day and really not supervised, things take place. So now the participants formed dancing circles around one central king, where two women danced holding handkerchiefs with the tips of their fingers. An old man sat on top of this cynical drum about a foot in diameter, beating the canvas quickly with the edge of his hand. Several others held drums between their knees, producing incredible explosions of percussive sound. A grizzled man of not less than 80 years of age played an African stringed instrument. So you heard me speak about this instrument in the last presentation that extended from the ground to over his head. Women sang African folk songs while walking rhythmically around the drummers. The sounds of Africa rocked this specific city. The square, which we was know as Congo Square, burst with color. The men came wrapped in traditional coastal African garb, brightly dyed robes wrapped around otherwise naked bodies. The women boasted their latest fashion, sporting clothes made of silk, gauze, Muslim, and Purcell. The flags of different African tribe regions and ethnicities flew above the celebrants. So, this is the 1800s. And with inside of these 1800s, you have these individuals knowing their nations, they're coming together. But there's something I really want to get into when you deal with these kings and queens and these festivals, right? So on this specific day, the anointment of the planter's carnival king, the festival will also celebrate the crowning of a new leader. Many times, these leaders have been chiefs of kings in Africa. The crowning of the leader was the climax of the festival. These dances were probably the largest African gatherings for hundreds of miles because of its French and Spanish past. New Orleans still allowed large groups of Black people to meet. This is very important. Unlike most of the rest of the United States, where such gatherings were banned for fear of the discontent that might surface. So, we want to talk about these festivals. So I'm gonna go out of that revolt for a second to show you the relationship of these Black kings and queens and these different carnivals. So you see this book here says the Pinkster King and the King of Congo. So yes, the Pinkster festival is not originally an African festival. It comes from Europe, comes from Dutch, has those specific origins. However, Black people in the Americas took over these actual festival and incorporated their own cultural remembrance in them. And they used it when they came together so that they can talk and do multiple things. So just to show you a historical record, here we go. It says the presence of elected slave kings has been observed far beyond the borders of New England and New York. Several accounts of New Orleans Congo Square, for instance, refer to Black kings. In her study of popular culture humor, Constant Rennicott writes that many who heard the minstrels in the Gulf states or along the lower Mississippi must have remembered those great holidays in the New Orleans. Early in the 19th century, when hundreds of Negroes followed through the streets, a king chosen for his youth, strength, and Blackness. So in previous presentations, I told you guys about Negro um, election day, right? And how that festival, how they picked as kings. I showed you the Black kings and governors in Connecticut, but this all ties into where we are at now in the U.S. and New Orleans. Moving further, so you have something called Black brotherhoods, and these Black brotherhoods are Catholic institutions. These on the Iberian coast, right? Black African brothers that are over there. They take on these brotherhoods, and they also, you will see the constant thing, they take it over and make their own. So it says around 1540, the Black community separated itself and applied for its own charter. And it was called the Brotherhood of Our Lady of the Rosary of the Black Men, which it received in 1565. During processions, the king and queen were usually protected from the sun by a sunshade held by one of the members and wore a crown or hat covered with pieces of gold, silver, or anything shiny to make it look like a crown. In places with a large number of slaves, several Black brotherhoods could develop that were subdivided according to their slaves' origins or nations named after their place or region in Africa from where they have been shipped, such as Congo, San George d'Ia, Mina, Mozambique. Other important holidays for Black brotherhoods were Corpus Christi, Epiphany, Easter, Pentecost, All Saints Days, All Souls Day, St. John's Day, and St. James Day. So yes, these are Christian processions and festivals, but behind these festivals is where these Africans had they named their own brotherhoods after their own nations and continue to have their own culture. They joined these organizations as well and created their own because it was a way for them to help the Black community. So they were able to provide what you would call health services. They were able to provide food, etc., for those new Africans coming into the place. They would even also uh, raise money to free these Pacific slaves. Moving further, what you're looking at here now is carnival in Trinidad. So what they're holding in their hand is the calendar sticks. So you heard me speak about these calendar sticks and stick fighting, and we're gonna read about this carnival before we go back into where we need to be. It says Trinidad carnival tradition in the Cambole, which is African, but it has incorporated vital masquerade traditions of the East Indian and Armenian. The Cambole is inclusive drum music led concerned with the vital African oratory tradition. It's about sacred masquerade, ancestral masquerade, satire masquerade, and is revolutionary. It is connected to dozens of secret society masquerade forms, which hid and mutated their forms into all the things we call traditional mans. And you'll see the name of the mask, the cow bands, the devil bands. Nearly every single traditional mosque has an African masking president in form and function. So in Trinidad, these Pacific brothers that are there, they're going against the British, and they utilize these same exact festivals and same carnivals to come together and forge alliances and revolution. So that is today, right now. This is what goes on over there. Now we will go back. So these meetings that these individuals were able to have in New Orleans will produce this. It says these meetings served as a means of exchange, both cultural and economic, but they also served another role as a breeding ground for slave conspiracies. And the Sunday, the circuits of the secret slave communication buzzed with signals. A plot was aloofed. Two men, I want you to pay attention to these names, Cook and Kwame, were in large part responsible for activating these African channels with revolutionary activity. Like the participants in the dance that January Sunday, Cook and Kwame were Africans. Their names suggest that these two men were Akan, children of a warlike African empire in the height of its glory. Their names were anglicizations of the names of Kwaku and Kwamami in the Akan dialects of Twi and Fanti. The name Cook was the name associated with the spider, the classic trickster Kwaku Anansi of Akan folklore, and meant that Cook was born on Wednesday. The name Kumani was assigned to men who were born on Tuesdays, and it was associated with the ocean. According to their master's estimates, Cook and Kwame were born around 1790, a time when war was ravaging the African continent. In the Lower Guinea region, the Oyo Empire, the Kingdom of Dahomey, known for having palaces decorated with human skulls, and their smaller states of the coast fought for regional supremacy, enslaving and selling prisoners of war to European traders at coastal forts. In the Kingdom of the Congo, a series of civil wars that had begun in 1665 mobilized large numbers of troops with guns and horses who fought across the African plains. The violence peaked around 1781 when 30,000 Congolese warriors stormed the fort of Salvador under the command of King Jose I and the Gold Coast. The Akan were driving toward the coast with massive armies threatening the European vassal states that supported the Atlantic slave trade. Cook and Kumane were born, grew up, and were sold into slavery amid these international conflicts, children of war fueled by a fast-growing Atlantic economy. So I put that in here because these two individuals, when this uprising is not brought up, when it is brought up, you don't hear their names. You only hear one individual's name, and I will get to him. So this describes the climate and the population of New Orleans at this time. So when you look at the end of the Haitian Revolution, what happens to the French and they sugar plantations? They leave. They come to New Orleans. And when they come to New Orleans, some of those Africans come with them. So these are people who are attuned and accustomed to war in their own homeland, and when those who came from Haiti and those who came from the Congo, etc. So I needed to put this here so you can get the background of these individuals. Let's keep moving. The 1811 uprising involved a wide diversity of African peoples drawn from all over the Atlantic world and many different languages and nationalities. An inner circle of headmen was responsible for organizing Pacific communities into insurrectionary cells for recruitment, discipline, and solidarity. With the rewards for betraying a revolt extremely high, headmen like Cook and Cuban, man, extremely careful about when they spoke with. They had to be sure they could be trusted. In New York, headmen had focused on organizing within Pacific national groups. Slaves were not to open the conspiracy to any but those that were of their own country. Wrote a participant in the New York Revolt. Since they are brought from different parts of Africa and might be supposed best to know the temper and disposition of each other, they addressed each other as countrymen and used a coded language to feel out other slaves' beliefs and politics. So, within inside of these communities in New Orleans, you'll see the same thing happen in New York, that they form according to their nationality and their origin, right? And they had to be secret because if you tell the wrong person, there were, like, we have rats today and 6 9s running around. There were 6 9s running around back then at that specific time. Now it says new recruits swore a war oath when they joined an insurrectionary cell. These military oaths were widespread across West Africa, invoked the primary powers of thunder and lightning to ensure utmost secrecy and a violent camaraderie. So I don't have to tell you about the Haitian revolt. I don't have to tell you about these things. You should be abreast. Now comes the individual who is the one who is said to organize this. His name is Charles Deslondes. So who is this man? Charles Deslondes was one of those slaves who were in tune with these meetings. A light-skinned black man who served as a slave driver, a member of the slave elite. Slave drivers were a notorious conservative group with a bad reputation as traitors to the slaves' cause. It is fair to say that these slaves intermediately linked who would fasten in some way the chain of servitude to that despotism and would find a malicious pleasure in overdoing others. So a slave driver is the guy who is running the plantation. He's the one that the master puts in charge. He's the one that knows everything about the master. So when you want to talk about the spook who sat by the door, this man, as you will get to learn, Charles Deslondes, was the real spook who sat by the door. The black people hated him. He's supervising whippings. He's providing all kind of laws or enforcing the master's laws. Nobody likes this guy. But let's keep reading about him. Charles Deslondes had quickly risen up through the ranks, driven by ambition, success, and a light-skinned tone that made him seem more trustworthy than the many Africans reported into the area. Born on the Deslondes plantation of the German coast, Charles served as the driver for the Spaniard Manuel Angie, a planter known for his cruelty toward his slaves. As driver, Charles served as Angie's right-hand man, running the day-to-day operations of the sugar plantation. So this guy is running everything. So when we spoke about these meetings and stuff that take place, Charles Deslondes, because he is a slave driver, he has specific freedoms that the other slaves don't have, meaning he can go see his girlfriend. So he can go from plantation to plantation. The slave masters or of other plantations know exactly who he is, and he can maneuver. During these maneuverings is where these conspiracies or revolts or speeches take place. And here is one of them. So Charles met Kwame and another person named Harry. It says they met on Sunday in 1811. They came well armed for battle with a powerful set of revolutionary political ideas, well-honed skills, and a complex organization, prepared to attack as soon as they was given the word. And by all accounts, they gave their word that day. Thursday would be their moment to strike. On January 8th, 1811, they would turn the world upside down. Charles Deslondes laid out the plan and gave some final words of encouragement. Every man assembled knew that his presence meant a near certain death sentence if the revolt failed. No slave revolt in Louisiana had ever been successful, and the punishment of failed rebellion was clear: torture, decapitation, and one's head upon a pike. Yet the planters, distracted by the carnival and the American military fighting the Spanish past Baton Rouge, the slaves believed they just might have a chance. So in 1811, we know about the British and the Spanish and the American people all gearing up for war, because you hear about this 1811 revolt, and we showed you the Americans and where the black people are in that actual war as well. But while this is going on, you have carnival, and the people are having a good time and they're distracted. So these people were highly intelligent. Why they say they dealt with revolutionary ideas, like I said, some of those people came from Haiti there, and they were on sugar plantations there. Thus, they need sugar plantations in New Orleans, and they sent them there. But some of those people were actual fighters. They actually get caught with Pacific books on the Haitian revolutionary independence and things of that nature, if I recall. So here comes the sad day, the sad time. It says about 500 slaves rose up, caused considerable damage, and killed 2 white men. They were stopped after a rough battle. Dozens of slaves were executed and beheaded. The heads were planted on poles. The Whitney Museum has commissioned Woodrow Nas to create 63 ceramic heads depicting the revolutionaries, which will be mounted on steel rods along a pond. So what happens with Charles Deslondes, he goes into his master's room, him, Tab and the others, they go in there, they kill the master's son. They basically mutilate that guy. The other guy, he gets away. He jumps out the window. So while he's jumping out the window, they trying to chase him, they can't get him. So he alerts the other Europeans by, but those 3 individuals who lead this, Charles Deslondes, Kwame, and Cook, they split up in different directions, and they continue their march on down New Orleans. As they're marching down, the same as you heard in the 1739 Stonewall Rebellion, the same thing takes place there. People from different plantations. One was the John Brown, not the John Brown that revolutionary, but the John Brown plantation joined these individual fighters, and they actually fought to the death. They fought to the death. So why is this considered, when only 2 white men being killed, the largest slave revolt here, because of the amount of slaves involved and the properties and stuff that were destroyed and the way that it was organized and how they was trying to carry it out. But this is what happened. So let me see what's going on. So you need to have this in your brain. January 8th, 1811. Don't just think about what you see people posting, talking about Black Europeans and all this nonsense. Understand where you're at in the story and understand that we have the real spook who sat by the door, Charles Deslondes. He was the real spook who sat by the door. These are your ancestors. These are your martyrs. So you saw me bring up the carnival, those festivals, Black brotherhoods, the names of these individuals. The documents in that book will show you their scarification that represent their tribes. There is no doubt who these people are, but you need to know this so that you can tell your own story. So let me look at the chat, see what's going on. I see real martyrs. Yes, that's right. These are our ancestors. Yup. And then you also have another history here. I mean, I could get into that. That's dealing with the Maroons, and that's the brother named Juan Malo. So you have him. You have a bunch of people in there. There's a lot of people in here. Get that work. Peace. Let me do my thing here. Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace, Julanda. Peace, peace, peace. I know we got some New Orleans people in here. They might want to jump on. Let me close this out. Stop sharing this. Let me come here. You see my New York background. You see the New York background. Yeah, you know we had to get rid of that. We had to get rid of that San Francisco thing, man. I ain't from the Bay. No disrespect to the Bay, but I ain't from the Bay. So let me go out of here. Let me put this up here. Throw this in the chat real quick. New. Where we at? Where we at? So any questions about what you heard? This is just a quick build. Wanted to drop some knowledge on this Pacific revolt. Here's the link for anybody who wants to jump on. For anybody who wants to jump on, there is the link. There is the link. Yes, it's a different guy. Who's this? El Original. My mom worked for Copper Gapon. Wow, that's deep. Yes, Black Power. Black Knot is Black Dollar. No doubt. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's the link there. If anybody want to get on and add on. If not, I will close this out. I just wanted to see how a presentation will look on the phone, but I might be on my computer and do that from there. I just wanted to see how that would work. So far, so good. So far, so good. No questions. Nobody got nothing. There's nothing. There's no more. There's no questions. How many days did the revolt last? It's like 3 days. It's from the. It's like 3 days. Mm-hmm. Mm-mm. Mom. Wow. No more questions in here. I think I put the link in here. Did I put the link in there? Yeah, there's the link right here. I see you, CK. I don't know what Obibio. Sure. True Storian. Yeah, it's okay, bro. This ain't that it wasn't that long. I was just getting straight to the point. Solo the Pro. Who's that? So I'll add you on to the cipher. Peace. Solo the Pro. You're in the queue. Did I do something wrong?
Hello?
Yep. Hello. Peace.
Peace. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, I've been watching y'all for a while, and on this subject, I just started researching it myself for my family. because they are from New Orleans, and I found certain connections to information of my family being from Haiti and being uh, soldiers or working for the Haitian government, but I'm unsure what side. It's like articles that they have, newspaper articles that I'm able to show that I've been able to research through ancestry.com. So really, I was calling to ask a question on what other resources I could use to search from what I'm able to through find through Google through the names. There are certain connections to like larger people in that area, and seeing that my grandfather had like 3 wives and 30 children, over 30 children, and his son had like 50 children with the same last name. Like our ancestry.com thing goes long, long, long. But it's rumored through family that they think that he was wealthy and they bought those families, that he didn't necessarily have concubines, but that he paid for family members. But I'm unsure how to research that or how to find more in-depth information.
Yeah, so for that, I would say, you already started your genealogical part right there. There's a genealogical department that's connected to every state. So like where you at, so there's a New Orleans Historical Society. You just got to go in there and talk to them. And I don't know where yours is at in the state because I'm on that site right now, actually, as I'm looking at it. And you just go in there and, you add on and they'll lead you to that path. I don't know 100%, but if you already did that part of your genealogy and did your ancestry and these are your family, you just got to take it from that point. And then the other research is going to be on you, meaning you're the one that's going to have to find. You might have to look in newspapers. You might have to do that. You might have to find marriage certificates, and if that's around, you got to go through that route. But they'll take you through that part. You know,
Yeah,
that's what I know to the best part. But go ahead, what you said?
the through what I'm using the ancestry.com, it is connecting me to different news articles that are connected. It made me find a court document that had his sons fighting over different land, this, that, whatever. And then, just referencing the years that they were there. And when he left in like 1806, I'm figuring, trying to put that with the dates of the war in 1804 that they had there. But I'm unsure how to find more in-depth information on what side, because he came to America and then was able to join the American military and got a pension from the Navy, from the American Navy. So,
Oh man, you in there. You in there. I'm no genealogical expert. I'm not that. I just know how to where you would go to find specific things, but you basically on it. But your best bet is to go down to them historical societies and talk to them about that, and they'll lead you on your path in depth. Because you already did. You got the newspapers, you got that stuff. You just keep moving. I don't
that's a
know
good.
what that's. I don't know what you're gonna get out of it. But if you have all of that, you on the road.
Yeah, I guess it's really just finding more information on the context of that time and what people were doing in that time, and
Right.
really it comes to making your own. Because when I see that the people that he was with, they have him working with Marie Laveau, and that she owned slaves also, but they have her listed as owning slaves and owning black people as property, having bought and traded over 8 different slaves, and they had one documented to my grandfather Pierre Monet, like they making a trade. But then it also gives a context to where she took in orphan. She had over like 15 children at all times in her house that she kept, that she gave jobs to and clothes and fed. And she gave, at the same time that you have her documented as owning slaves, she's selling elixirs and selling different products to help slaves be able to get or secure freedom or be strong for their free. Like she was a doctor, so they're saying that she had a kit for them to deal with mosquitoes and leeches or whatever kind of things that they would have to deal with to get their freedom. So in owning slaves and then selling freedom type material, it gives you have to make up your own context of what she's trying to do or what type of person they are,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's dope, man. That's deep. That means you really doing your genealogy, man. You really in it. But since yeah, that's good. Who's this? Daniel. Good. Well, yeah, that's dope. You got any other questions about this? Or
Nah,
that was your
nah.
main question?
Yeah. When I saw y'all doing something at the time period, I listened to that time period to try to find more context and just
Right.
researching off of y'all, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. But try that historical society and the genealogical department they have. I can't go too deep on you with that because I don't know.
Nah,
But
I think when I
mhm.
Google it, I see something like that says ancestry through that, but I'm just unsure what references are trustworthy and what are just articles of
Right.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when COVID is over, hopefully you can go live there because those historical societies they credible. Those are the ones who have all the documents. So when you want to
Okay.
get those newspapers and different stuff like that, you're gonna find all that. Not there specifically, but it'll be your library as well. Whatever your state library is there, that'll lead you into those different directions. I mean, and then you just go from there. Because that's what you want. You want them newspaper clippings. You want that. You want the stuff that is not really out there. So
Mm-hmm.
you gotta go there to get it. But because COVID, I don't know how to. That's why I don't know what to tell you. But that's some dope history right there that you just pulled up. But since we over here talking about New Orleans, I'm gonna show something else real quick. And who just came in here? Let me show something real quick here. So it says we on the New Orleans. So this is the New Orleans historical.org. This is their site. Since you hear about Maroons, I brought you the Prospect Bluff people from Florida, and now we'll bring you the Maroons of New Orleans. So these are somewhat called the San Malo Maroons. It says Paper Monuments Project 010, the San Malo Maroons have the most remarkable and extensively documented history of runaway slave communities in the Western Hemisphere. The Spanish authorities were deeply impressed and quite frightened by the military strength of the Maroon settlements. Stand up. The San Malo Maroons have the most remarkable and steadily documented history of runaway slave communities in the Western Hemisphere. These men and women lived in the swamps surrounding New Orleans. They established permanent settlement in Chief Montois and in Gelderland, their main settlement in St. Bernard Parish. So here you have some places to look at. The runaway slaves often left in families, so there were considerable numbers of women among them. Their names can be found on the list of recaptured runaways, with more information about individuals and testimony of recaptured Maroons, including their leader, a man named San Juan Malo. They were largely self-sufficient because they cut, squared, and delivered cypress logs to mill owners in exchange for substantial cash payments. They cultivated beans, corn, and herbs, and they fished, hunted, and created craft goods, much of which they sold in the street markets in New Orleans. They were armed with muskets and brought shot and powder in New Orleans as well, and were able to defend themselves. Testimony from the government's interrogations of recaptured runaways demonstrates ongoing collaboration between the Maroons and enslaved people who remained on the plantations, including marriages among them. Maroon territory stretched from St. John the Baptist and St. Charles Parish immediately upriver from New Orleans, surrounding the city, to downriver from the English turn through Lake Broad, where they occupy almost impenetrable swamps. Their settlements extended down to Lake Baratara. The Spanish authorities were deeply impressed and quite frightened by the military strength of these Maroon settlements. In 1784, following a series of uprisings by enslaved people against their masters, paid spies led a series of costly expeditions to to root them out. Sam Malo and many of his fellow Maroons were captured and hung in front of St. Louis Cathedral, while women and children were brutally flogged. His wife avoided being hung because she claimed she was pregnant not once but twice. Their memory vivid among Creoles enslaved and free of the colonial Louisiana. Here you have some pictures. Here you have the map. And here you have this project. Behold the Maroons of the U.S. Not in the Caribbean, but right here. I'll stop that. You. Who else was in here? I thought somebody named Daniel pop up. Oh, that's Uncle Truth in the back. I thought I admitted him. That's crazy. He ain't come in. Hello? Mic check. Hello? Oh, I guess he's quiet now. You in there, Danny, if you want to talk. But yeah, man. You have the San Malo. Juan Malo, bro. I get banned from all the tracks except this one in Urban X. I think we also need to clarify what it meant to purchase enslaved persons when done by Africans in North America and those purchased by Europeans. Well, I think I can oblige you and help you with that. Let's talk about it. And then I guess it depends on the region and where they were at. So I'm gonna go look up something real quick and I'll get to you. What do we call it? What's it called? Slave owners, right? Oh no, that's the name of it. Black slave owners. So let's deal with it. So I'm gonna help you. Give me a second. Danny, you can't mute yourself. I ain't mute you, bro. Why you keep saying you waiting? I just admitted you. You in there again. You in there 2 times now. You're here
Yo,
twice.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, you in here twice.
Well, kick one of them out.
Nah, you good. It don't matter. As long as you don't hear yourself.
I don't hear myself.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for letting me come on to your show. And I just like to tell your audience that Rob On is discriminating because I asked him about Zoom this morning and he said he sent me the information. And then I just happened to be perusing YouTube and I see Rob On is live. So I just want to let people know what was going on. And that's it.
I'm discriminating. Why would I discriminate?
I don't know. Why would you, brother? Tell your audience that you discriminated.
Nah, I gave it to you, bro. I don't know.
No, you didn't, man.
Yo, listen, I even tried to go live on the computer and it's telling me that I have to verify something and I did all of that. So I'm like, what the hell is this talking about? So I said, I gotta go across the street. So I said, I'll go live.
I don't want to interrupt your very informative broadcast. I just want to let people know that you discriminate.
Yeah, so you came on here. That's crazy. You might as well add on, man. Don't run now.
I literally just turned on the computer and saw like, hey, Rob On is live. I wonder if he sent me that information. Oh, he didn't.
Yo, I added it, man. I don't know what else to tell you, bro.
Okay,
you
brother.
You gotta give me some time.
Give you some time for what? I asked you yesterday, dude. Don't try to get out of here, man.
Yo, when you asked me for the other password, I gave it to you, right? I'm not just gonna
go ahead, man. Your
Did I not give?
Is going, brother. What was y'all talking about? I see what the Maroons? Where? Louisiana?
Yeah, I was doing. I did first. I did the 1811 revolt. Charles Deslondes and 2 brothers that we don't hear about with that revolt, which is Cook and Kwame. You know, the Akan people who's the revolution that because you'll usually just hear about Charles Deslondes and them other 2, they just never mentioned. So I brought that up. That was real quick. I just went over it. I went over the carnival on how they were able to do this revolution by carnival. And I went into some more examples of what they mean by picking the king and all those things of that nature and how we take over some of their festivals and carnivals and utilize them to conspire and to demonstrate our culture. So why New Orleans was different than every other place, because they allowed those slaves to come together.
Did you talk about Congo Square? Did that happen to come up?
Yeah, that was in there. Congo Square is in there. My instrument that I found the other day is in there too. They talk about them playing that African instrument.
What, the banjo?
Yeah, not the banjo, the thing that's before the banjo, the basio. That thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So talked about that. And
pretty
that was
cool,
really
man.
it. And just that. So just now I just went into the Juan Malo thing. So that now you have some more Maroons that's in the United States that you don't know about. So now you know about Juan Malo. And somebody
Right.
asked about these slave owners, these black slave owners, and I'm trying to find my book.
Oh, that's right. You could share your stuff on this thing, right?
Yeah, but so
No,
what
go
you
ahead,
got to
brother.
add to the New Orleans hits?
I have nothing to add, but that's great job what you did. But nah, out of New Orleans, I mean it's interesting because it's kind of like Haiti in a sense that there is colorism that is comes into play a little bit, and you have these different classes of people, kind of based on that caste system that comes out of the culture. And so what you're seeing later, you got an elite mulatto or Creole class that becomes, their own separate class. Just like in Haiti, you start to see, but it's interesting because what you talk about in these struggles here, then you go up into the Civil War, and I don't know if you talked about it, but that black regiment was the New Orleans regiment, but they initially fought with the Confederates. Can you pull that up? You see what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about?
Hold on, because I was grabbing this for this guy. But what do you want? Give me one.
That caste system that's created with the Creoles and the mulattoes and the this and the that, and the Congos. The other one is kind of mirrors Haiti in that regard, and how you have this elitist, mixed race class that comes up and basically is the black version of the white elites, if you will. So when you see the Civil War pop up, those people initially choose to fight with the Confederate Army. That military unit is what I'm saying. From that same area, and that's from that same group of mixed race farm owners and even slave owners down in Louisiana.
What's the name of the regiment?
If you look up, I forget the exact number, but if you look up New Orleans Regiment or like New Orleans Black Civil War Regiment, it'll come up. I just can't think about the top of my head. There's actually a picture of them on Wikipedia. If you go to the Wikipedia page, if I remember right.
All right, so let me get that. And I want to get into these, what the brother was asking me in the chat. So, New Orleans Regiment. Yeah?
Regiment, yeah. And there's one more thing, too, after that.
So, we got New Orleans Infantry Regiment.
If you put black with it, it'll be specific. It was only one. I just can't really think of it off the top of my head what it is. You put Black New Orleans, like Civil War Regiment or something like that, it'll pop up.
First Louisiana Native Guard.
There you go. There we go.
All right, hold on. The Native Guard. So I'm shoving it now.
So yeah, if you're sure, and I think if you're in a Wikipedia page, it might even show you the historicity. Oh wow, what's that? Oh,
See it?
right. Yeah, right.
So the first National Guard, 73rd
Make this a
Regiment
little bit
Infantry.
smaller. Can you make it a little bit smaller? Because
Yeah,
about there, right there.
Was one of the first all-black regiments to fight in the Union Army during the American Civil War. It is based in New Orleans, Louisiana, and played a prominent role in the siege of Port Hudson. Its members included a minority of free men of color from New Orleans. Most were African American former slaves who had escaped to join the Union cause and gain freedom. Yep.
So look what it says right there.
Where?
Right there. A predecessor regiment by the same name was what? Now, if you click on that one, now you see when they were the Confederates. Right.
First Louisiana Native Guard was a Confederate Louisiana militia that consisted of free blacks.
Right. So those free blacks, like if maybe scroll down a bit and it'll tell you their origin. Those free blacks are those slave owners in that mixed race class that's in New Orleans. Right there. Maybe it's under the Governor Chambers are making a prominent free blacks for the meeting. Yeah. About 2,000 people attended the meeting. Free blacks from wealthy, prominent free black families. The majority of them were clerks, artisans, and skilled laborers.
Nope, not there.
Right. But anyway, that is that group right there. Like some of those different classes that come up there. And also, but earlier on where you're at, I don't know if you're talking about as far as culturally, and it's interesting. This is where they started making the women wear the bells on their head wraps. And that's what those was it Tignon laws. That's what it's called. Tignon laws. And they're right in New Orleans. And what they do is they make all the black women cover their hair because then some of them they made them shave their hair, but because I guess the white men were finding the black women's hair attractive and all this stuff, so they made them cover up their hair and also cut their hair sometime. But they also made them put bells on their headgear. And they actually have specific laws, and these laws are called I'm probably it's some French way of pronouncing it, but it's Tignon laws.
Right.
But it goes in line with what you were saying, just as far as back at that earlier period in that culture that's coming out of New Orleans. So what are we doing now? Okay, we have now destroyed New Orleans, destroyed the South. No, hear me out. Hear me out. So we destroyed the South yesterday, and now we're building them back up. I like your style, Rob. Yeah, so this is the rebirth of the South. Go ahead, bro.
All right. This book right here is called the Black Slave Owners in Carolina. This is the answer to that brother's question. You can start from 20 to 1860. I'll go to the cover to make sure I'm right. But what I wanted to point out is this, right? So same thing Danny was trying to talk about with the classes of the people. So here it says, for the most part, free black planters relied on the labor of males to till the soil of their farms and plantations. So the percentage of male slaves were greater than in the slave holding of the black urbanites of Charleston City. For instance, male slaves between 10 and 54 years old consisted of 30.6% of the slave holding among the black planters in their rural localities, while the same age group, the males represented 27.9. So I'm saying all this to say, let me see where this is at. Wait up, hold on.
Where's it say at the bottom? All the
most
free
apparent
mulattoes?
similarity between the most apparent similarity between the rural and urban slaveholding within the free black society was the dominance of mulatto slave owners. So the most slave owners were mulattoes. This is this new class. So it says even though the free mulatto community consisted of 48.7% of the free black population, they comprised 83.1% of the Afro-American slaveholders from South Carolina in 1850. Clearly, the overrepresentation of the free mulattoes was a reflection of their privileged origins. Many of the mulatto slave owners were the offspring of white planters and merchants who provided them with slaves. For instance, Thomas Hancock, a white planter of St. James and Goose Creek, provided the mulatto children of Nancy Randall and free black women with 6 slaves, as well as stocks and bonds, blah, blah, blah. Right? Although many free mulattoes received their slaves from their white benefactors, most did not depend upon the gifts of white relatives. The majority of the free mulattoes earned the money to purchase slaves by their own industry. Many mulattoes were trained as artisans and provided services for their communities. And they do build something. Where is it? I'm trying to find, I can't remember. What's the name of that thing again, Danny? That mutual aid society. What is it called? Brown something.
The Brown Fellowship. That's in South Carolina. Yeah, it's called the Brown Fellowship Society.
So they developed this. Hold on. Okay, wait. As the free mulattoes began to exploit the labor of slaves, the gap between blacks and mulattoes continued to widen. Since the majority of the colored masters were mulattoes and their slaves were overwhelmingly of black skin, a division developed between the two classes, which embraced both a racial and class conflict. Within the free black community of Charleston community, many mulattoes separated themselves from the dark-skinned segment of the free society. For instance, they banned dark-skinned people from their social clubs and seldom married unmixed blacks. Many of the mulatto slave owners aligned themselves with the white society and helped to preserve the system of slavery. The conflict between blacks and mulattoes was a class struggle, which can be vividly seen in the events causing the failure of the Denmark-Vesey conspiracy. So, they basically did that. All right. So although the proportion of colored slave owners was quite small when compared to, I need to, I'm saying nothing different. Although the proportion of colored slave owners was quite small when compared to the number of white slave masters, they owned a modest percentage of slaves in South Carolina. The black masters of the Plymouth state owned nearly 1% of the slaves. Yeah. What you gonna say?
So what happens is, what also gets injected in New Orleans in particular is Haiti. Like the people who are running and escaping Haiti are bringing their mixed race children, are bringing their mixed race enslaved, are bringing those people with them. So that culture is brought with them from Haiti and then implanted in New Orleans. And then that, that type of skin color caste system is injected into New Orleans culture because they bring it from Haiti. Those are the ones who were the planters and who had the mixed race children also in Haiti. And when they start wilding out in Haiti, the subtext behind that, eventually the folks in Haiti start flipping on the mulattoes for reasons.
Right. And I brought up that little briefly to show that those people did that was because you had the sugar plantations in Haiti, and then in New Orleans had one of the biggest sugar plantation things going there. Those French that left there came there and brought them people with them. And some of those people were in the war.
So the guy he also got something to do with Egypt, right? Norbert Rillieux, Rilleux, because he is the guy that is, when he's down in New Orleans, invents some process for sugar refining.
What's his name again?
Norbert Rillieux, I think, Rilleux, if I remember right. And then he invents this something down there as well regarding sugar refining.
Nah, that shit's felt.
It's not. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Sugar.
Norbert Rillieux. No, yeah, it is. Oh, it's Rilleux.
Right.
There you go. Yeah. Actually, yeah, pull him up because he pretty much encapsulates what we're talking about right here.
You want me to pull him
I said
up? Which one?
encapsulate, son. Norbert Rillieux. Pull up his Wikipedia page.
He got the Chemical Society.
Right.
I'm gonna pull that one up. That one.
Yeah, but this has him in. He's
You know,
from those.
You know, you the king of wiki, right?
Because it's easier for people to digest, brother. And this is exactly what we was talking about. Almost to the letter. Yeah.
All right. Norbert Rillieux and the multiple effect evaporator. Norbert Rillieux, widely considered to be one of the earliest chemical engineers, revolutionized sugar processing with the invention of the multiple effect evaporator under vacuum. Rillieux's great scientific achievement was his recognition that at reduced pressure, the repeated use of latent heat would result in the production of better quality sugar at low cost. One of the great early innovations in chemical engineering, Rillieux's invention is widely recognized as the best method for lowering the temperature of all industrial evaporation and for saving large quantities of fuel. The birth record of on file New Orleans Hall is spare. He was an inventor, blah, blah, blah. As the boy.
Look up what? Nora Quadroon Libre. See? Look up. Right.
What?
Yeah, right there. Norbert Rillieux Quadroon Libre. So that's free quadroon. And so quadroon, now see, they got, this is great. They got classes, they took the classes because of Spanish and put their Jean de Collage shit there. So they got even below mulatto when they're referring, look, quadroon. We don't even use that. We took mulatto and that became it. And, you know, they really using quadroon libre. That's crazy. But yeah, he's down in, because you got mentioned sugar. That's why I thought about it. And he was doing that there.
Sugar cane syrup. Some sugar plants just quickly understood the right there. Man. Oh, the fact. But yeah, let me go look in here, look in the chat, see what y'all got. Mauritiana, my brother is J.A. Rogers a quadroon. On the sentence.
Now, what was that J.A. Rogers comment I hear? What you say?
Yeah, I asked
like a J.A. Rogers quadroon. See, original comments like that might get you extracted from the chat. There's very few things that's going to get you extracted. Any slight toward J.A. Rogers might get you high on the extraction list, okay? Can't be dissed about man J.A. around these parts. But yeah, so, you know, and then now we got to think, this is interesting now, it's the sugar culture in Louisiana. Right?
Yep.
Never looked into that really. The sugar. Where Louis? Oh, you had a New Orleans on here, didn't you? Sugar cane production like that in New Orleans.
Yeah. Sugar cane was crazy.
Okay, so Norbert Rillieux is a person that probably most people may not have heard of. That's in chat, and they may watch it at a later date. And So how we do is each one teach one around here. So his cash app is $Rob Warren. That's what it is. And you can also like the video, folks. And by the way, NBK's official sponsor is Black History Prints, PRINTS.com. And then just in time for Kwanzaa and Christmas, you can get your Kwanzaa gift for that special Negro in your life. And right now, if you go, there is a discount. Tell them Uncle Truth sent you if you type the letters NBK in there. So that's blackhistoryprints.com. Okay, what were you saying, brother?
Nothing else really. I think it was good though.
Dope. Got that. So South, we are letting the South rise again. We are in the process of rebuilding the South. Thank you, Rob Warren, once again.
That's what the North does. We ain't never hear you guys talk about Juan Malo or the biggest. Like you could have came with you could have hit us with the haymaker, and we would have to be quiet. Be like, "What's the biggest slave revolt in the U.S.?" Oh yeah, all right, you got that. But we're gonna build you back.
So no, what happens now? We don't want to rub it in because we already established that yes, it is the North that has to teach the South about their history. We dealt with that yesterday. Now we're at the point of rebuilding. Strong rebuilding effort. You kicked out the gate. You showed them that there's Maroons. They're aware of their New Orleans culture. I mean, bravo, brother. Bravo.
He's melanated, got it. Yeah, man. Stop acting like you like that Brooklyn guy, man. You already know what it is. I don't know why you be riding with this guy for, man. I don't know why.
One state at a time, and we will rebuild the South. The North has now the task of one state at a time. We will rebuild the South and show you the history that is buried. That's your history below those cotton fields. I mean, we're being better now. Don't do that, Truth. Below the country road. You know, that old town road of yours?
Not all Creoles were like that. It was stereotyped that all light-skinned Creole is a culture, not a race. Well,
Nobody said
I brought up one of them.
Race? Yeah.
No, I brought up Charles Deslondes. I told you he was the ultimate spook who sat by the door. That was the master's right hand man. He was whipping them slaves too, boy. He was a slave driver. He was giving it to them. You moving too fast, nigga. Bow. Master Andy was like, yeah, that's my Negro. He was a good old motherfucker. Then you talking to John and all the rest of them down the block. Yeah, I got my man Charles. He had these Negroes in check. Little did he know that at that night, that Charles was gonna be up in that room with them black Africans and chopped his son to pieces, and he had to watch him die. Little did he know. But when talking about slave owners, I'm sorry, the majority of the slave owners were those mulattoes. They stuck in the middle, man. Like, what are they supposed to do? It's kind of tricky situation to be in, don't you say, Danny? During that time.
Mm-hmm.
Tricky situation.
100%.
Real tricky situation.
Yeah, but it's something that we look at historically, and it's not a judgment on them, like you said. Like, you literally caught in between worlds. That's the essence of the statement right there. And so this is what we find in West Africa as well, with that mixed race population that comes up. This is what we find in Haiti, and this is what we find in Liberia. This is the dynamic.
What did they call them in Liberia? Black white men.
Yeah, right. So, and this is what Dr. Clark was trying to teach people. So they take bits and pieces from it, but he was really trying to explore that, just like Blyden was. And Blyden talking about this mulatto and so forth and so on. It's not necessarily like, it's to understand the culture that came out of being and not
Enslaved. Yeah.
not necessarily just enslaved, but like, listen, yeah, you can't deny the fact that in the West Africans case, that you're part Portuguese, and the other part is African. And then when you get, when you get to the Americas, you can't deny the fact that, one part of your father may be a white man and your mother may be of African descent or Native American, or you know what I'm saying? Those people still have to live. Those are still humans on the earth. And that their classes in society form out of that. But it's just interesting when you see it historically, because that same situation is in West Africa. Those people are the ones who you're going to find out in a lot of cases. There's one in particular that was tied to South Carolina that built the damn slave castle.
The slave castle, bro.
That's serious.
Oh, man, yo.
But it ain't like, Joe, you now mulatto's bad and all. No, it's just understand, like, you got to take your emotion out of it if you're going to really try to understand history. I think a lot of times when we start to put our values on everything, that the stuff gets blurred. Yo, it happened. It happened. And New Orleans culture in particular then adds another element to it, which is there in Haiti, but also they add in a Native American factor come into that. So a Creole person, just like you said, that's a culture of Native American, African, and European. It is what it is. The language in, Sierra Leone is Creole. Those are Creole people. Why? Because Creole doesn't mean what we think. It just, I'm not getting into that whole thing, but those people go back and they are not historically, but they've been in Americas for centuries. You are outside of your mother continent when you return to Africa by virtue of maybe 2-3 generations, and then you go back. And that's what Creole means, born outside of the mother continent.
This is Richard. How y'all doing?
Uncle Richard. Yes, sir. How are you?
Y'all really, I appreciate it. Y'all. No, I'm one of these here junkies that like to talk. So, but I appreciate that y'all bring out this side of me, and all I got is questions and thoughts, really. But what I'm looking at, there was pure African, I'm gonna call it pure blood Africans, try to make this distinction between mulattoes who were purchased enslaved Africans, and I'm asking myself whether they treated, even though they were purchasing Africans, because I don't see the language coming out when I'm reading it, comes out that, because a lot of them were purchasing for family, because they were purchasing family. The context is different. And I think that should be elevated, that the context of, because a lot of times it's just lumped as one, right?
I agree. So when we break it down further to individuals now, there's different reasons for it. So whether there's some Black slave owners who want to take advantage of slavery as an institution, yes. Were there also Black slave owners who wanted to free their children? Yes. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, when we drill down, we definitely get into that. But people take the headline sometime, I think. Hold on, Richard, just want to get this last part out. People take the headline sometime, I think, and say, yes, Blacks were slave owners, and don't drill down further. That's what I think sometimes it may be.
I agree. Right. And the question I'm raising is that were those some who had quote unquote plantations too, meaning that they necessarily, they were, okay, this, as you say, we're living in this environment. I'm a free African, I'm going to purchase family members and others, and we're going to work this plantation, not in the same, same kind of manner as far as I'm calling it brutality, because I think in New Orleans, they were brutal.
Because you also have to be responsible. There were certain things that came, even though humans were property, there were certain things that came with them, because they couldn't have those people being wars to the state because there's no social safety net yet. When I keep saying that, I mean, there's no Medicaid, housing or whatever. So if an African is, just like, get off my plantation, then what? then you become a loiterer or you become a burden to that particular town. So what I mean by that is that the people who are slaves have responsibility as far as reporting them. You had to feed them, you had to clothe them, you had to shelter them. You got to do all those things. And if you then want to free them, what they did was they put fees on it.
Right.
So what they would do, a lot of cases, Anthony Johnson did this early on, is he would buy Africans, and then by virtue of that, like, yo, homie, yeah, I freed you, but you still owe me the money that I paid to free you.
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to work because you have no other way of sustaining or surviving in life. Where are you going?
And
You can't go free.
And
Yeah, let me add on. Yeah, let me add on to this again. This is to add on to the in that same book, The Black Slave Masters, to hop on the point you brought up. You see here, this chapter is called Buying My Children from Old Master. Mm-hmm. So it says the purchasing of slave relatives and friends was a persistent current in the free black slaveholding in South Carolina. From the middle part of the 18th century into the Civil War, free blacks often sacrificed and struggled to free their families and friends from the chains of slavery. For many, the task of liberating a loved one from bondage involved years of hard work and saving just to buy a single slave child. Once purchased, the nominal slaves were usually manumitted by their black holders. So there you have that. But after 1820, free blacks could not emancipate their loved ones without the approval of both houses of the state assembly. So free blacks not only struggled to purchase their slave relations and friends, but strove to provide freedom for those purchased.
Do me a favor, look up, when was Denmark Vesey? Was that 32? I don't think it was as early as 20. The reason I'm saying that, normally when you see like things, this is a hint for people who are researchers, whatever. Normally when you see new laws or something like this pop up, especially ones that are really harsh and restrictive, something happened in the country, in the record to stir that. You see what I'm saying? Okay, as a number of emancipation in 1820, something happened around 1820 for that to happen. That's why I was asking. I forget. I think Denmark Vesey was later though. But no, in South Carolina, it's a riot down there every week. What?
Yeah, this shit is crazy, yo. I was reading this. I was mad when I saw that. I was like, black slave owners. What the hell is this book? I was like, this book gotta be garbage. And I was like, oh man. But I guess that could be the difference. I'm not gonna say this book has a lot of charts and stuff in it. I just don't know why it's not underlined on this, which is weird, which is driving me crazy. But they show like what they were doing, why they were freeing them, what they did. Man, it was a couple of families that they were specifically naming that they was just on some bullshit. Straight up. If you wasn't their family or their friend, like they was just like, yo, this is property, dog. That's it. I mean, it shouldn't be a shock because this was happening in Africa. You ain't my family. Get up out of here, bro.
People have shootouts with people who live across the street from them. People send people to jail for crazy years with people who live in the same building of them. People do all this stuff to their neighbors today in the places where you live. Will sell you up a river or literally kill your mama and your whole family. How is it so crazy? Yes, black folks were slave owners, not to the degrees like I agree with Richard. We don't want to ever promote it like, yeah, there's some industry amongst Negroes. Nah, that's not the case. But the reality is, yeah, some black people own slaves. Yeah. And they were messed up. But when you drill behind it sometime, it goes, hold on. Robon just put some up here where these people were freeing their family. These people were freeing their friends. So like Richard implied, there's a lot more to the story in some cases, but we can't neglect, like you just said, Robon, yo, before them slave ships came, some of y'all families were slaves in Africa too. I hate to break it to you, kid. Some of you Negroes before them slave ships showed up were slaves in the mines digging gold in Africa too. You was not all kings and queens. Okay, let's get that straight.
And one thing I'm trying, and I haven't particularly seen it, is that, those Africans who bought Africans and were running plantations, these are small colonies. I mean, they're utilizing the plantation business, but the relationship is different. And I think that becomes the model. And maybe I'm extrapolating, and that's why I appreciate you guys, because y'all bring where it is. But in looking at it, some did have, yes, they were blacksmiths and whatever that raised enough to purchase, but others actually, there were some, and they were small, that ran plantation or ran what is considered plantation, farm businesses. And by doing that, to me, it's like the model of small business communities that we see later on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm asking, have y'all seen anything like that, I guess, as in your journey through
what, as far as building a community out of it?
Yeah, or at least just running plantations itself.
So what happens is with Anthony Johnson is the lineage goes on. So the people of North, this is for Cujo, this is for Cujo. So now I gotta let it all out here. So the people of North Hampton County, all right, come on, sir. Let me just, it's hard enough.
You got
so the
snake
people
in your
of
blood,
Northampton County in particular.
This is how you kill the North. Wait. This is how you kill the North. I mean,
they're slave trader.
So the people of Northampton County in particular will have a Johnson name, right? And those Johnson names in a lot of places in Northampton County is connected, to answer your question, Richard, because his children and grandchildren have bought more farmland, and they named it Angola in his honor. And so what happens is then they obviously have families, but those Johnson families start marrying each other, but they also start freeing more people, but they're working in Angola and along the other properties in Northampton County right there. So yeah, that a lot of that community that comes up where you see a lot of free Virginian people in general going way back is because of what you just said and what the Johnsons and a couple other free Black families has started by buying people and then, getting these plantations to set it up. But who's the hater that just jump on here? Oh, it's a Southern Negro. I should have known.
And to the president. Peace. Hello, everyone. Hi, Daddy. Hi, True Story. Hi, Raw Born. This is Ogumbola. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing well today, brother. I sense a little bit of angst. I want to let you know but hold on, brother. I'll give you fair time. I promise. This is the rebuilding of the South. So your Southern aggression may not be warranted at this time. This is the rebuilding of the South and showing the great. And Rob Warren just did a great presentation showing the glorious past of the South, New Orleans in particular. What were you going to say now?
How are you today? Have you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing well, thanks. Look, the snow has started in the Northeast. I'm a little bit mad, but we'll deal with it. We'll get by. Thanks for asking.
How you feeling today, sir, Rob Bourne? How are you today, sir?
I'm good, man. But you sounded kind of like, I don't know what's up, man. You got people in your family named Ogun, though? You sure that fits over there in that area?
I just, I feel kind of betrayed by you guys. My feelings. I'm in my feelings like True Story, your favorite rapper, Drake. So I did come on here to bring scholarship. I just came to let you guys know J.A. Rogers is 80% white and 10% Negro. True story and hero is 80% white and 10% black.
He is
since
not.
Since you want to talk about the South so bad, take that, brother.
Listen, J.A. Rogers is a Jamaican and he is not 80% white. That is complete fallacy and blasphemous, actually.
Well, he's 80% Irish. I'm starting a new rule.
Well, he may not be slave black just as yourself, but he is Negro.
Let me tell y'all something. The Georgia gave y'all Martin Luther King. If it wasn't for Martin Luther King, y'all Negroes wouldn't be on the YouTube talking the way y'all do.
Okay, so since you want to bring this up, let me ask you something about historicity in Georgia in particular. Now, you tell me this, brother. How did a place that started off when part of the selling and marketing plan is we won't have no Negroes in this colony, none.
And then we end up having slaves.
Then
Correct.
how you end up with the most Negroes and the most ratchety of Negroes in the state of Georgia? Atlanta is technically the only chocolate city we got left. So that means that your enslavement became cultural and tied to food, thus the high blood pressure levels that may exist down there. There you go.
I'm in the West End, riding through the West End right now. This is for the family. I'm in the blackest neighborhood in the city. Well, all the niggas at.
Can you show us the slaves, please?
Why you talking like that? You purposely sounding southern right now. You don't talk like that.
Man, y'all hurt my
like
feelings.
Plies. Like Plies do that. Plies got like a degree in aeronautics whenever he get on. That's what the Southerners do. That's a part of their game. Go ahead, Ogun.
Well, I just got on here to say thank you guys for the knowledge and the scholarship. But yes, J.A. Rogers is 80% Irish. And I will go back to the order.
No, he's not. You can't just leave with that. No, he is not, people. This guy come on here.
Jenny, what's your thing again? Hitman what?
Who mine? History Man 718. History Man 718. Cash App Raw Boy. Cash App History Man 718. But I like people to know that the reason why History Man 718 is there is so that I can continue the work of the master teacher, J.A. Rogers, and find a way of bringing the information to people. So that's what the effort is for, folks. I'm hoping to get a piece of equipment so I can go live from areas now and stream. I've been seeing people doing it, so I'm going to get back out.
Thanks for the donation, Rich. I seen that. Thank you, brother.
And so that's what we're aiming for, folks. I like to go live. And
you aiming for what? You aiming for guns?
Huh?
You aiming for guns?
No. What I'm saying is, Uncle Truth would love to just go to Pitkin Avenue and just go live, walk it down Pitkin Avenue in the middle of Brownsville, so people can actually see Brownsville. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Or we go.
Hey, Nikki, sister Nikki Lane. I want you to hit the link. We need to hear your voice. Hit the link, Nikki Lane. Hit the link, sis.
What happened?
Hit the link. Nothing happened. I just wanted to hit the link.
Can I raise another thought question?
Yes, Uncle Richard, you got free reign to raise whatever you want. Go ahead.
You know, sometimes I'm wondering, will y'all agree that what the Southern Africans maintain is this cultural, what we have as African cultural continuity, even in the North, comes from the South.
No, you will have good. No. That's a nice try. Because what I'd like to state to you is that the African culture would exist in New England all the way down before you reach anybody's Masons or Dixon. And you can have numerous places where you can see the African culture survive. Let's just start with New England. Hey, there was a little Liberia right there in Bridgeport since way back. You also have a Guinea town up in New England. Hey, you had a Guinea town in Philadelphia, as well as the land of the Blacks also became Little Africa. So you have a Black presence with Black culture that is there to this day, and is the reason that you even have a Greenwich Village. This Black culture.
You're moving too fast for me. Now, I can see, and based off of what the presentations you've done, especially around, I think that was when the Dutch was in New York, the whole thing of the African towns that were built. And in Rhode Island, you know, those Africans creating towns. Now, those are early 1600s, right? You know, and those are first Africans that are coming in possibly directly from the continent. But when we look at the South, the influx of Africans coming in legally and illegally continued all the way up until the 1860s, if not longer.
Facts, bro. So if we being real, and then all jokes aside, as far as the Africanisms that I think you're hinting at and maintaining it, there's no question that the South kept that because of one, the sheer number of people, and two, plantation life provided the venue for that to even happen.
Right.
See, what people don't understand is in the North, Black folks lived in smaller numbers. So you are happy during your day of interaction to see another Black person. Those Black people lived in the cellars of those places, especially in Philadelphia and New York. And so you would think about, I'm just trying to put people who are not from New York, think of the brownstone type of building. There would be a cellar right there, which would be a basement. The Black people would live in the basement. And so you're living in the middle of Philadelphia, in the middle of New York or Boston or whatever, and this is where they were living. So there's no plantation life. These people are still enslaved, but they're enslaved, think about that dynamic, in an urban, in a city environment. And so the ability, this is why the Caribbean has that advantage, the ability to maintain our African culture out in that system is crazy. But in plantation life, you know, you're living literally arm in arm and with your people, and you're, you know, singing, talking to each other, reminiscing about Africa. The root doctor is still there, the music is still there, the culture can survive longer in those places. So, I mean, I agree with you with that, but only because this is the Southern Rebuilding show will I ever admit that in public.
Funny.
I just want you to be clear on that. But go ahead, brother.
Now, other thing that Brother Robert, you bring up in those rebellions, which I think we don't really emphasize enough, is the strategies. You know, it seems to me that when we talk about war strategies, and those rebellions are war strategies that they, you know, whether we consider them successful or not, and they were utilizing, you know, and I think you mentioned the brother was from Dahomey for the build that you just did. Right. That those strategies are strategies that were learned there. What I'm saying, Europeans take their strategies of warfare, and then they, like right now, they'll continue to train and develop on those strategies of warfare. Africans had strategies of warfare, and I think that we, you know, the Maroon societies, we need to really emphasize that also, that those weren't just random acts of violence. You know, they planned. I mean, when we hear about Nat Turner and all that, that's the point I'm making. And I'm asking, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with it, and that goes according to why I will keep bringing up those Black brotherhoods and how they were formed and how they formed under nations. So, like you see in that bill, they did a comparison to what you call the hegemon, right? Or this was the hegemon of it's like a hereditary and how they were organized, their social life, period. They compared it to 1741 conspiracy based off of them writings there and this thing in New Orleans, and they saw like, wait a minute, these hegemons that are separating themselves by nations. Why did they separate themselves by nations? Because all of these people wouldn't get along, even though they in a predicament where they ain't in a place where everybody who looks like them is getting done dirty. So they have their own flags, they have their own culture, their own dances according to their nation, right? So that's planned. And then I brought up the other part on what was the wars that were going on in West Africa. So they showed you one about the Congo and one that's dealing with the Ashanti people and that stuff that's going on there. These are those people. These are the captives and them that's caught and that sold. Those are them people. So them warriors off the rip. So yeah, so I agree.
And I think that the thing that, you know, and I hear, well, all of y'all are doing it, you know, in SNEP is as you move, taking and look back to West Africa and, you know, look over how we got here and the circumstances. But, you know, the thing that I'm looking in what you just described is that they create, even though they were different ethnic groups, they were able to create relationships with each other to work together for this common cause. That's you know, sometimes we talk about now like we can't do that or we hadn't done that here, but that was done here, and you can really, by emphasizing the history, you can see that as you said, they were repping their ethnic nation, but they agreed on something towards a common goal. And I think that that's a strategy, a tactic we have to reemphasize as we deal with the history. That is, if I'm correct, and do y'all agree with that?
No
Please,
doubt.
you go right in the park in Washington Square Park in Philadelphia and see that they tell you that the people of various nations, and they named them, came there and danced in their native dances and spoke in their native tongues. Right there in the middle of Washington Park, right behind where the Constitution and all that stuff goes down. And then you have them coming together to form a whole new culture, which is in a new environment on top of that. So we're an amalgamation already of those people, and we see examples, numerous ones, where you got people of various West African nations coming together in a new environment, and we see what the result of that. Because when they come together, how do you name the organization for all of us, the Akan Association? How do you name the organization for all of us, the Dahomey or Guinea organization? Because we're all not that. But what we all are is African. So those people chose to come under that banner. So under that banner. So your point of, can't we do it now? Yeah, they did it from the core. We didn't come over as African necessarily. You know what I mean? Right. We came over as Fanti and Ashanti and Congo and so forth and so on. By virtue of the culture that's created here and the bonds that are created, how can you go about saying now we are the Benin people when all this Shantis and Congos is there? But what we all are, and this is what I'm saying, we have self-recognition of who we are early. It doesn't make sense. When you say we didn't call ourselves African, you don't know history. From the door, once we realized we couldn't call ourselves the Dahomey Society because everybody ain't from Dahomey, we came under something that we all are, African. And then you see the record play out where everything is named African.
Right. Until they had
your tribe, Richard. This is what they say. Why you name it after your tribe? Because the classic example I say, after the first generation, when the Congo had the baby with the Ghanaian and that baby was born in South Carolina, all of that is out the window. That was
And you know, the thing that the thing that is common though as a social structure, even though their ethnic groups are different, which I think is the basis of the mutual aid societies or the brotherhoods or those secret societies, is that they all those ethnic nations had mutual associations with each other, groupings, and so to create mutual societies was easy to do, to look out for others. Those mutual aid societies, that's what I'm, and I'm, so I'm throwing that out there to see if y'all would agree with that.
Well, as far as mutual aid societies,
that's an African cultural retention. That's what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, we can see it. This is what I'm saying. The Poro Sandy is just the one of the bigger ones. There's tons of those societies all over there. Societies have important functions within the culture for us. This is what we did because we did it here. Our grandmothers and grandfathers and greats and so forth was all a part of organizations. When Du Bois did the Philadelphia Negro, people could go and read it, it's free online. It's a study and overview, and one of the things that he definitely emphasizes a lot is the fact that these Negroes are part of an organization that they go to 7 nights a week.
Right.
7 nights a week. So one night you're a Mason, the next night you're going to the Let's Clothe the Children at the School drive. The next night you're going to the Abolition drive or a society or whatever. The next night you're involved in the phrenology class or whatever. This is every, you know what I mean? The Deacons board meets on Friday night. All we were was a part of organizations because those organizations supported the community, especially when, this is why I'm trying to emphasize it, there is no welfare state. There is no social safety net. What that means is if your ass gets sick, then your ass is out. What that means is if your ass can't work, then you end up homeless and hungry. That's what we have. We have that here with Medicaid and like I say, EBT, SNAP, and all that other stuff. That's the welfare state. It's not a bad word.
Yeah, let me add on to that. So,
yeah, go ahead, man.
So I got my screen up again. So, y'all heard us talk about all of these state mutual aid societies. But on the right side, you'll see in Philadelphia, all of these mutual aid is a lot of them. So you see the female ones is actually more female than males, which is something that not really talked about. But this next page here is this bank.
Wait, hold on.
All right.
Wait, hold on, bro, because it looks like it's spinning. Is it showing?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not.
It says Rob Bourne.
It's spinning?
Yeah, it's still spinning.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So let me go back out. So I'm gonna go back again. Oh, it says I'm sharing.
Yeah, man.
Is it spinning or is it sharing?
For me, it's spinning. It says Rob Bourne.
Yeah.
It's spinning?
One has shared screen, but it's spinning. If I click on it, yeah, it's still spinning, and I don't think people can see it on the internet. Stop spinning. Stop it all together. Not the thing. Stop sharing altogether and try it again. Okay, you stopped it. Now try it. Hello?
Oh, hold on. So I'm gonna do it again.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right, so where did it go?
While you guys wait, you can check out Black History Prints.
Yeah, right. I was on this page first. All right, so while I'm here, you see this is what I was showing if the screen didn't show. These are the state mutual aid societies. You see the ones from
slides out of it. You's a sucker.
Yeah.
You's a sucker. Yeah.
So you see right here on the on the right, you see the Negro societies in Philadelphia from 1831. The male societies is a bunch of them. And you see there's more females than that. But to add on to what you're saying, when we talk about these African societies and fraternal orders, these are something that we had to do it to survive, right? But those same exact things is the same things we were doing there, which wasn't a need. It was just something that was a part of our culture. So when you get to this bank, right? So this is the first black bank in America. So it's the Savings Bank of the Grand Fountain United Order of True Reformers was the first bank owned by African Americans in the United States. It was founded March 2nd, 1888. But let's look at this for a minute. So my screen's still sharing?
Yeah.
All right, so here is this order. Grand Fountain of the United Order of True Reformers. The Grand Fountain of the United Order of True Reformers was an African-American fraternal organization that became the largest and most successful black business enterprise in the United States between 1881 and 1910. You guys need to hit my cash app, lowercase r, Rob Bourne. You ain't, I don't know what, listen, man. All right, man. You heard about Masons and Odd Fellows, and no, this is the joint right here. Now, the guy name is who? William Washington Brownie, founded and organized the Grand Fountain in Richmond in January 1881, a former slave, veteran of the Union Army during the American Civil War. Teacher and Methodist minister, Brown created the Grand Fountain with a renewed purpose and energy out of the languishing Grand United Order of True Reformers, which began in 1870s in Alabama and Kentucky, where the original order taught temperance. So we looked over what the temperance movement is, people who wanted to show and prove that they could assimilate and get rid of some of their cultural markers and behaviors to get into the European culture, and hopefully he'll have a change of heart. All right. And provided members with sick and deaf benefits. There we go again. Brown's vision expanded into an enterprise that cultivated a growing black middle class by offering services that included a savings bank, real estate company, retirement home, a youth and children's division that taught discipline, thrift, and business skills. Although the Grand Fountain operated until 1934, it was never the same after 1910. Oh, here comes the dinner. When an embezzlement scandal and the number of large loan defaults caused the bank to close its doors. Despite the organization's downfall, the order left a powerful legacy because it provided employment and business opportunities to African Americans, helped to establish community leaders and business networks amidst the period of Jim Crow laws and strict racial segregation in Virginia.
So
Behold.
look, right there, stay right there with that same organization. If you go to True Reformers Hall, and it's going to be in DC. So this is the connection with this organization with the community. So we see it as a bank, we see it as a fraternal order, and we see it's an integral part of the Black community. At True Reformers Hall in DC is where the first Black basketball games were held in that area. And so the guy who goes to Harvard for the summer and learns the game from James Naismith, Edwin B. Henderson, when they start to play their games, basketball, when he brings it back, they play basketball, and the first Black games that we play are in True Reformers Hall. And so I mention that and say that to say that those halls and those organizations were an integral part of our culture, Richard. You see what I'm saying? Outside of bank, fraternal orders, these are the places where events are held, and you can see even the birth of basketball in the case of DC was held at True Reformers Hall.
Old folks home. All right, so let me go to one more thing for you, because you asked about that. And let me go in here. Let me get out of the Pinkster guy, get away from him. And let me go to West.
Rob Warren, before you do that, can I ask you a story and a question?
Yeah, as long as it's not about Squanto, you good.
What's up, bro?
I'm not gonna bring up Squanto, even though Squanto have a great chain. I'm not gonna bring him up.
What's up, bro?
I'm down my class, but I have a question because it kind of go at Richard, and this not a competition thing, but I want to know this: the more people come directly or have a more direct connection to Africa, they come to the eastern, northern part of the United States, or the deep south, because we always see that it's domestic slavery and them breed up a bunch of people, and we deal with synchronism, and then synchronism come where you have remnants of the African culture synchronized with other things in our American culture to kind of keep and show a history and a connection to what come there for out of Africa. Alive? That's what y'all talk about.
Yes.
So now I want to act now, because the man that did say that, but me not say there was some illegal slavery, and me not say a few people come, or the people in the South never really come directly from Africa. Them come from the ports in the Caribbean. Alive?
Yes, there's a lot of them do, yes. Well, like after you see,
so what I'm trying to say is, but when the people them come from the north, right, them have more of a connection directly to Africa. That's why them start name them thing more Africa, and them start build them colonization society. They have more of a direct connection to Africa than are the people them come out of domestic slavery and out of the South. And there are no competition thing. But I think
listen, I'm gonna tell you why. So you're gonna see those things in the north for a different reason. It's one that I mentioned before, and let's stay with South Carolina in particular. South Carolina is the only colony or state that is set up as a slave society. Every other colony and state is set up as a society with slaves. So what do I mean? South Carolina is the only colony and state that is specifically created to take advantage of the enslavement of the African.
The most them slaves that come in South Carolina come from Barbados.
Hold on, brother. Hold on. Let me get to your point. Yes, they come from Barbados, but we're talking about specific times now. So we're talking about prior to 1807 and 1808. So in that time period, you have a number of Africans, yes, going to the north because Rhode Island at one point was the main slave port in Providence, right? And then the main slave port was in the main slave port. It was in New York City. But by the time the numbers start really going up, it's in South Carolina, and it's in the 1760s, 50s. The numbers start going up because South Carolina is, like I say, fully set up to take advantage of enslaving Africans. So you're
but
have,
at that time here, South Carolina was considered part of the Caribbean, alive with all the pirates.
Yes, it is. You're exactly right. It was part of
America.
Carolina. Was called like Little Barbados. It's a place in Virginia and in South Carolina. One of them is called like Little Barbados and one of them is called Little Bahamas. I forget.
Yeah, so tell the ADOS them for stop disrespect the Caribbean man. Remember me tell you.
Oh, here we go.
Now you see how
Alan,
set you up.
put on the closed captioning, Alan, please.
Come in for set you up.
Please put the closed captioning on for our listener audience. Holy smoke.
We just set you up and do a true story and then beat you in
man. Here we go. See, no, but seriously,
I know what to do. I have to go back to my class now. Bomba class, one.
So, but to that point though, after 1808, even though we're not supposed to do it, there are still ships coming in. We obviously know from the Caribbean now. Don't get it messed up. There's still, like you say, there's Africans being seasoned in the Caribbean. And then those Africans are being sent to, or being bought and sent to, Charleston. And then Charleston is then where people are dispersed throughout the colonies.
But when we say seasoned, though, I mean, because those those plantation owners come from the Caribbean to South Carolina, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
That's one. But those Africans who are in the islands, they are coming directly from the continent, and so
the ones who, so your first stop is going to be in the Caribbean,
right? And
you're going to go through a seasoning process. But people who don't know, so now you have to be you see advertisements that say pitted for smallpox. So now if you have to get to a change in a new environment, and that can lead to a lot of sickness. So now you're going to get seasoned in the Caribbean. That way, you're going to get used to New World sicknesses and get there. So what they did, you would come off the boat and they would isolate you in these pens. And then basically you would go through your period of smallpox, messed up in these pens with everybody else who got this smallpox. And that's part of the seasonings. And now you'll see the advertising. Now that you got going through the smallpox, you are seasoned for these New World type of environments. And then that seasoning process comes, now they try to break you a little bit and get you to pick up to some pidgin or language that has been created to communicate, because this is where Creole and pidgin languages come out of, the fact that they have to communicate with the African, and the African has to communicate with the French, with the Spanish, with the Dutch, with an English. This is where those pidgin, which leads to Creole, and with the Native Americans that's in there, languages come from. So yeah, all this is taking place in the Caribbean. So by the time you then get to the US, you've gone through all that. So now when I purchase you, I don't have to worry about, okay, is this slave gonna get sick or die on me? No. He's been seasoned. That's where it comes from. He's been seasoned for the seasons and the changes in climate in the Caribbean. And Barbados was like the main place until Jamaica became the main place for that to happen.
And it's just, I think that, what the brother was raising, I think it's important to emphasize, they didn't lose their African way just because they went through that process by the time they got here. That's what. I think
that's the thing. There was no. Yeah. We got this thing, Richard, like it's a magic boat. Like these people were on this boat and they lost everything about their Africanness. And then we look at, which is a fictionalized movie for all those people watching, but the instances are real and symbolic of things. And the most symbolic and powerful one is the one that we're not realizing. They had to literally whip the name out of Toby, right, because we did not just give up our African traditions like that. So literally they had to, that's symbolic of them having to beat Africa up out of you for you to let it go.
And could I add to that?
Go ahead,
the reason why the difficulty, it seems to be, because sometimes we mix that Africans with the church, right? But in our names, in our way, our belief of our whole cosmology was tied into the culture. So the reason why it was so difficult is because it isn't, when you give that up, you giving up, your whole existence of what your being is. You're just not giving up like, well, today I'm a Christian, tomorrow I'm a Muslim. That wasn't, for traditional Africans, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong in this outlook, those traditional African societies, whether the Orishas and all that were tied in intricately into the total belief system.
We did not have astrology class in West Africa. And what I mean by that, hold on, Rob, I see you got let me just say it. So what I mean by that, because you're probably gonna lead into what I'm going to, Rob, is that so how did we were able to navigate and run away and use the stars in these environments? Because those are things that are part of our cultural systems in Africa. It's the same damn sky. You get where I'm going with this? So the sciences that we use in West Africa, you looked up, that's just one example, and saw the same damn sky. The stories may change to explain it now, and the roots may change, but the ideas are still gonna remain the same because it's the same sky, you're just on the other side of the water. So this being interconnected with the environment, then in the end, you just happen to be in a new environment. Go ahead, Rob, I'm sorry.
No, you good.
No, Sean, dude, show that.
This for you, Jesus. This is for you. I told you, man, change your name, bro. Change your name. Change your blood clot name.
Oh, Lord.
Why is your name Jesus?
Why
That's
you
the
looking at
problem.
teeth right now, but me I gotta listen.
Change your blood clot name. So y'all deal with it. Y'all talk about there no Africa in the
Yo,
South.
Alan,
huh?
you got the worst coconut accent ever. Yo.
I know, but listen. Here go. The rituals of resistance, African Atlantic religion in Congo and the Low Country South. Ooh, what we got here? What we got? Let's look at this. Many of the words used by Low Country Blacks to describe ritual medicine attest to its varied and diverse construction. Several variants of the term Obeya. My screen just disappeared.
Are you good? Says you are sharing screen.
Yeah, somebody called me. So it's attest to its varied and diverse construction. Several variants of the term Obeya used frequently to denote a complex set of African-derived ritual practices constitute part of the religious lexicon of the Low Country. In the case of two Carolina slaves, Harry and Cuff, who published a small matter of truck or obor from one quash called the Obor Negro. Philip Morgan reports that one Hector, a South Carolina slave and root doctor, claimed left the fire kindle as fast as it will. He was engaged by his obeas to stifle and put it out. W. Harnett, former slave in Georgia, recalled the prevalence and noted the persistence of the obia practices and fetish worship of the pagan Negroes. And it goes on and on and on. So this is in the South. These are the Africans in the South. But I could keep going, but I'll let you live.
Yo, CK said if you turn your phone sideways, you can see the full screen. Thank God for millennials, kid. We looking old as hell. I guess if you turn it sideways.
You can't see the full screen. It's gonna do the same thing. Watch, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna put it back. So she just did a
liar, CK. We tried it.
She just did a false flag. Watch this.
She false flagging. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna do it right now. Let's see. Let's take a look. I'm gonna turn it sideways. Oh shit. Maybe
she ain't lying.
Right.
Thank you, millennial. Thank you, millennial. She was right.
All right.
Yeah.
You can see the full screen?
Yeah, thank you, millennial. Yeah, she got us. We need the millennials to not make us look crazy on the internet.
Yo, I ain't know you could do that.
Right, that's what we got them for. They got to be good for something. They killed our music.
Yeah, they damn sure did. Killed my shit. So hold on. Damn, what happened to this book?
Yo, it's starting to come down like crazy, yo.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. She made me turn my and the answer said non-safer. You can't show that. Here we go. So let's see. Hi, look. Nope. Okay, check it out. This is for you, brother Rich. So this is a book that's dealing with secret societies in general. So it says West Africa is one of the classic culture areas where secret societies have been documented. They occurred in southern Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and parts of Ghana and Guinea. I stopped there. These are all places that we came from. Although the Igbo and some other West African groups apparently did not have secret societies, the secret societies of the areas have been compared to Eleusinian and Egyptian mystery religions, including Mandid, like aesthetic dancing, whatever may have you. I'm not interested in that. Okay, right here. The two major secret societies in the area were the Poro, with the women's version as the Sandi. In Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, the Ekpo in the southern Nigeria subdivision of the Egbo, both considered as leopard societies. In most areas, there were other secret societies, some of which were locally more important than the Poro and Ekbo. Some of these were the Yasi, Kofang, Bandu, a cognitive Sandi, Huma to regulate sexual conduct, the Naji to cure mental illness and promote fertility. In Nigeria, some of the more important societies are the Sakapu, the Adiong, claim to be the most important, the Icon, Asang, Abawan, Agbo, the Human, Alligators, Najahal. I don't know how to pronounce this stuff, but don't get mad at me, y'all. But the Michi Dibia Society of the Igbo was also described as a fraternity of medicine men with most of the characteristics of secret societies. In general, secret societies control major aspects of the economy, education, politics, adjudication, sexual behavior, medicine, social services, recreation, and entertainment.
Oh, this book is butter, y'all.
Yeah.
That's
What,
yeah.
what book you talking about?
The book just can't. You done off. Like, oh Lord, you done off, y'all.
What book?
Don't worry about what book. It just came to the door. So, folks, can I get 2 seconds of your?
No. What book are you talking about?
Yeah.
What book are you talking about?
Yeah, yo. So, folks, what I'm asking is one, definitely support Rob Bourne in his efforts of what he's doing because he gave us. I mean, he's did some great stuff. So it's $ Rob Bourne. That's one. Two, I like you guys to definitely like the video and sub to the channel if you haven't. And three, my cash app is History Man 718. But the reason I'm telling you about History Man 718 after you look at Rob Bourne's, of course, is definitely, y'all, what just came to my door. I'm trying to raise the funds so I could, like I said, get back on the street. Just trust me, what just came, just support the efforts y'all gonna see. Yo, Rob Bourne, you done off, kid. God.
What book you talking about?
Yo, son. Wait, you want to hear it? Look, you think I'm playing? Want to hear the pages go? You hear that?
I care about that.
Woo!
Son,
Yeah,
you
Rob
done.
Bourne. I think
History Hitman.
man.
History
Rob
Man
Bourne, I think you
718.
misunderstand me.
Yo,
You
you
never
are
say,
finished.
you
Yo,
never
matter
say
of
no
fact,
African
Jesus
there
Christ.
is the South. You just
Jesus,
say
you finished
the
too,
North have more
Daniel.
of a direct connection. But
Let me
say that in the linguistics and the remnants of the language, you can trace back to the Ebonics and the Pidgin and the Patois and different dialects all the way back to Africa.
Yeah.
Me know that, man. Me never say that. So what you try and get me, pan, you never get me, you know. You never
Yeah,
get
I
me. You just
get
want
you.
that.
Yeah, me get you because it's the same culture all in the South that's in the North. Same thing. What you
Okay,
talking
let me
about?
just add this. So, folks, I just turned to one of the pages in this book. So, anybody interested, since we're talking about New Orleans and seeing statues and monuments, I would suggest, because I'll be going to New Orleans to do this stuff. That's why I'm trying to get the equipment, y'all. I'd like you guys to go and check out the marching brass band sculpture that is in Louis Armstrong Park in New Orleans, Louisiana, friends. And you can go see beautiful statues. And I'll be broadcasting from these places soon. Rob Bourne, you are so done, yo. Want to hear it?
Man, fuck,
Tell them
man,
to
get
go
out
to
of
the farmers
here.
market on Sunday. They go out the Congo Square in New Orleans. Yeah,
Oh, no,
man.
don't worry
Go to
about that,
farmers
brother.
market.
That's all in what I just purchased as well. Don't make me want me to tell you where to go in California since you're sitting there. I've got that too.
You can't tell me nothing about the West Coast.
Don't tell me you got the honoring legacy of Guide to African American Monuments.
Yo, Richard, I hate you so much, dude. Yo, Richard, you suck, man. Damn.
Richard, big up yourself, Richard. Me like Uno.
Yo, Richard, you got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you bastard. Yo. Don't say it no more. Yo, Rob, want to erase this video, good. Don't
I already heard it, man.
Yeah,
and I already
come
got
on.
that, and I got that book too. You
don't
fucking
got it because you don't got it because it just came
All
out.
right, so we gonna do this live right now.
You want to know why New
closet.
York never make fried eels part of the black?
Hold on, Jesus. It's not on.
I'm going in my closet.
Fried
I'm
eel,
going in my closet.
Eel and French fry and them thing.
Play yourself because it's not in ebook.
Eel started tap dancing and
Yo,
all.
Ricky, you're not allowed.
No, I don't have an ebook.
Why black people not eat eel like that over here? So I go on.
Oh Lord, what is this nigga?
Why go on with the eel?
Yo, Richard, you're not allowed back on this show, brother.
I asked you about the eel and the tap dancing.
I heard you, Jesus.
Why
Give me
people
a
not
second.
eating the eel?
All right, talking about it. I got you. One second. I just want to tell Richard.